Hello and welcome to this episode of the AI Show. I'm so excited to be here. Today we're talking about Azure AI Studio and answering your questions. Wow, I am really zoomed in here. Let's fix this a little bit. Too much, too little, too much, too much. Oh, too much. It's too much. I have a fat finger here, and I can't get it right. Again, hello, welcome to this episode of the AI Show. It's been a full week since we've chatted. I'm excited to be here. And before we get started, I'd love to ask, where is everybody coming from? Where is everybody coming from? So I'm going to open here my chat thing so I forgot to open it. I don't know why. Oh man, it's going to make me put my password in and stuff. I don't even know what my password is. Let's see what I got here. So how's everybody doing? Where's everybody coming from? I'd love to hear from you. Like I said, today we're talking about the Azure AI Studio. Oh man, it's asking me for all of the things that have bridges in it. Bridge here, bridge here, bridge here. Verify. Yes. Yes. Hello, my friends. So let me tell you what we're talking about today, my friends. Let me share my screen. Right, like, screen one, share. Here we go. Today, we are going to talk about Azure AI AI Studio. I feel like I need to say it like Azure AI Studio. It makes it sound more important when I have like reverb. I don't know why. It's a two-parter. A two-parter from Shanae. Winner. She is not here today. She is here in spirit, of course. I recorded this last week or the week before, maybe. But I can answer questions. I know a little bit about Azure AI Studio, so yeah, I can answer questions if needed here. And then number two, time permitting, there is a really cool AI tour going on. I myself just returned. Last week, I was in Bangalore, India. So we'll talk about the AI tour, where I'm going next so that I can meet every one of you in person. And then I'll talk a little bit about there's a really amazing workshop. We should have Nitya come on. Nitya did such a good job at putting together the workshop, her and Cassie. And I thought I'd show you a little bit of code that we're showing off, so give you a little taste of what's going on. So that's the two things that we're doing today on the AI show. Let's take a look at where everyone's coming from. Okay, here we go. So many people. Here we go. Stockholm, Sweden. A delightful place. London. That's like one of the places that I could like live in. No, every place I go to, I'm like, oh, this place is lovely. Like I said, I was in India last week. I was like, lovely place. Austin, Texas. Lovely. Hyderabad, India. Welcome, my friend. New York City. I was in New York a couple of weeks ago, probably 3-4 weeks ago for the AI tour, and so that was fantastic. So thank you. Dresden, Germany. I will be in Berlin in the middle of March. I think it's March 19th for the AI tour. Stop there. So make sure you come say hi if you are available. India. Lovely. Little Rock, Arkansas. Sweden. Oh, I'm pushing the wrong button. Sweden. There you go. Omaha. The Dutch are here representing. Welcome, my friend. Lebanon. Thank you so much for being here. We have also London, Bangalore. There's so many cool places. Italy, Finland, Ghana. So welcome. DF Meta is here. Hello, my friend. By the way, if you're watching here, there's a brand new YouTube channel where we're trying to put all of our stuff together in one place, AI related, and so that's where you'll find us. At the if you go to aka.ms AI Show Live, I think it'll take you to the YouTube, and then you can just we should probably have a link for the channel so people can subscribe to that. Welcome, actually, Paris. I'm also going to be in Paris, March 14th. March 14th is our stop in Paris for the Azure for the Microsoft AI tour. So many good people. Thank you for being here, my friends. Montreal, Canada. Okay. All right. So let's get started. We're going to start with the first episode. And what I want you to do is, as you watch, I want you to get all of your questions ready. And I actually have, okay. CJ's like, it took me a while to find today's stream. I'm so sorry, CJ. But once you like and subscribe, you will always know. We love the MS Dev channel. I love the MS Dev channel. Love the people there. It's just there was so much stuff. We wanted to find a home for us. Looks like we have Xochimilco in Mexico. Enrique Velasco. Oh yeah, look at that. Please bookmark. It's youtube.com/@ the AI Show Live. So I'll get a link going for you to put that in. You can see that there. Please bookmark, like, subscribe, all the goodness, so that you will not miss another episode. And if you do miss it, that's okay. You'll be able to get it on replay. All right. And without further ado, let's get started with the first part of a two-parter on the Azure AI Studio. So let's take it away. You're not going to want to miss this episode of the AI Show where we talk all about building your own Copilot with Azure AI Studio, a two-parter with my good friend Shanae. Make sure you tune in. Hello, welcome to this episode of the AI Show. We're going to talk all about building your own Copilot with Azure AI Studio, a two-parter. This is part one with my friend Shanae. Shanae, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi everyone, my name is Shanae Winner and I'm a senior product manager on the Azure AI team. And I currently work on our UI experiences in the AI Studio.
Fantastic. And so for those that don't know what the Azure AI Studio is, can you fill us in what problems it's supposed to solve? Who is it for? That kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. So the Azure AI Studio essentially is a unified platform for all of our AI services to allow users to build their generative AI applications and also copilots.
That's amazing. Now, is it hard to use? Like, if what kind of applications should people be thinking I should use this? Is there something you can show us? What do you got?
Yeah, definitely not hard to use. I'm going to show you how easy it is to build your own Copilot from scratch using Azure AI Studio. Today, we're going to focus on building a Q&A, like a chat box, question and answer Copilot. But there are many, many applications. You could do like text generation. You could do semantic searches, different things depending on your need. But I'm going to show you how easy it is to get started. Don't
All
worry.
right, let's take a look. You got something to show us? Let me bring your screen up.
Yeah, so this is the AI studio that I just mentioned. And essentially today I'm going to focus on a customer called Treeholics. And Treeholics specializes in tree and plant varieties. And we're going to build a Copilot, a question Q&A to allow customers when they come to the Treeholics website to ask questions and we'll be able to give them an answer. So the first thing you want to do is get the right model for this Q&A. This is where you'll go to the model catalog, where we have thousands of models by like Azure OpenAI, by oops, my thing was zoomed in here. But we have thousands of models by Azure OpenAI, by Hugging Face, and so on. And the first thing I want to do is actually start looking for Q&A models. So I click here on question and answer filtering on the right. And if you notice, I have a whole ton of models here set,
Yeah,
like a
that's a
bunch. I could even go to the next
Uh-oh, did
page.
something
And for
happen
me,
here? I
this
had a
is a
little
bit
bump on
overwhelming.
my
So
machine.
I like to
Let
use
me
a tool
see
called
what's going
benchmarks, which
on.
is right here, that allows me to compare model performance. So as you can see here, we have the question and answering task that we're looking at. And I can easily just compare these models and see the actual performance of these models. So just by a quick glance, you could already tell that the GPT-4 model is performing the best based on like accuracy and coherence and these metrics that you see here. So for me, that's a clear indicator if these metrics are important for my task that I can leverage this GPT-4 model.
That makes
Is
sense. And
it-
so you're able to benchmark these things based on any number of tasks, or are there certain tasks that are better to benchmark against others?
Yeah, good question. So today we support Q&A and text generation,
I love it.
and we support a handful of models that you can see here. And these models actually tested on these common like industry standard data sets. So
Oh,
today we don't support all of the tasks, but some of them you'll be able to find here.
yeah, but if you scroll down, this is something that I hadn't seen before. It looks like you're like there's a chart that
Oh,
does the model accuracy against all of these data sets. And so, like for example, bigger models are more expensive, smaller models are less expensive, but maybe less accurate. And so maybe you could even find your sweet spot for your particular kind of application.
exactly, Seth. So this is a tool that I love to use, especially when there are like so many models to choose from, and I just need that extra guidance to choose the best model for my task. That I come here to get that information.
I love it. Another question I want to ask is this is the Azure AI Studio. I'm going to put a little link. You just go to ai.azure.com and you can set up an account if that's what you want to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's super easy. So you don't have to do anything to get these metrics. You just set up, you sign in, and this is already done for you. These are metrics that we generate for you to look at and learn more about.
Amazing. All right. So what's the next step? Once we got to
Yeah.
pick a model now, right?
Right. So I pick a model. So let's say I go with GPT-4. And actually, for this demo, probably let's just do GPT-3.5 because this
Yeah.
is a bit cheaper. So I'm going to use this one. So what I can do is I can easily just deploy this model, right? So I have already deployed this actually in my project. And this is my project here called Shrin Demo. And before I jump into how you'll actually use this model and deployment, I want to talk a little bit about our project because the project is a really awesome way for you to organize your work and also save the state of your work. And here you can see, I can easily see the infrastructure that my project is running on, the connections, and I even see permissions, like who I gave access to my project. So if someone gets you upset, you could just remove them and don't give them permissions. But
Notice
one
that
thing
there is no Seth in that particular project. I probably was removed.
I wonder why. Yeah. So I want to focus a little bit about this Azure AI resource. And
Okay.
this AI resource is essentially a hub that manages the resources for your project. So you can set up your Azure OpenAI connection, your storage connection, and essentially create multiple projects using this Azure AI resource. And so the good thing is like you set this up once and multiple projects can be created from this. So that sort of streamlines the setup and management of your resources for your projects.
So let me see if I understand this correctly. So effectively, like because this stuff is backed by Azure, you have an Azure resource. The hub is. Did you call it the hub? I think that's what you called it. And
Well,
then
I call it that's a term that helps me understand. It's a hub for all of my resources. Something that like a common like setup.
got it. And then you can have multiple projects inside of that resource. Can these multiple projects share resources, or
That is
tell me
exactly it. Yep. And that's the beauty of using the Azure AI resource. You can share the resources without having to create a new connection each time you create a project.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. All right, what's next?
Yeah, so I've gone through just the boring stuff of, the project overview. Let's actually test this deployment. So as you can see here, I've already created my deployment and I want to now test it and use it in the playground. And the playground is a really good place for you to experiment with like your models and deployments. So as I mentioned before, we're looking at a company called Treeholics. And I want to ask like, what is Treeholic's return policy? I type that in here, and it's, if you can see, the model actually oh,
It returns something.
did return something, but
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, and this is a fun little thing. Like, I always tell people, and you tell me what you think, that you should never use these things as databases. You should use them as language calculators, because here the model. I don't know if it knows anything about your company, but it looks like it's talking about return policy that I don't think you've even told it about. Is that the case?
yeah, yes, that's true. So it's telling me something about return policy, partly maybe because I was testing it before this call, so
Yeah,
it's probably remembering some things.
yeah,
But what I do want to point out is like right now, this information that the model is producing is not grounded in my company data. I don't
yeah.
see any references. I don't even know if this is the correct return policy because it's not actually referencing my company data. So that's
Correct.
something that I want to make sure that the model is grounded in order to give me more accurate results.
And you know what's cool? What's cool is that I think you were expecting it to say, "I don't know." But the thing that it said something, it should be scary to everyone out there because we want to make sure that anytime you use these things, you do ground them in your actual data. Because irrespective of what model you're using, you need to make sure that it's referencing correct information. And that's, I think, what you're going to do next. Correct?
Yes, exactly. So it's giving me some answer that's not really pertaining to my company. So what I want to do here is actually add some data.
Let's do
And
it.
the good thing here, Seth, is that so many of the amazing Azure data connections are available for you to leverage. So you can, connect to OneLake or Fabric and so on. But I'm just gonna use like Azure AI Search, connect to my service, and I've actually created an index of my data for my company previously. I am also going to add vector search because this is such a great way to improve the searching capabilities. And let me just talk a little bit about search here. So on the back end, we of course use a pipeline to open up the documentation and chunk the information, and then use an embedding model to embed this data. So that's why I have to select an embedding model here, the ADA model, to help with that text embedding. And once I acknowledge that, I can then select the type of search. So here you can see that I've selected hybrid and vector keyword search. And the good thing about vector search is that it understands user intent, or like the relationship between words. So in this scenario, like words like tree or planting or seeds, it tends to like understand the relationship there. And the good thing about keyword search is that it's good for exact matches. So if I want to search specifically for something, that helps using the keyword search. So I like the best of both worlds. So I'm
Yeah.
going to select hybrid search.
We want lunch and dessert, and so we're going to have both when it comes to search. Oh, it's almost rhymed when I said it. Yeah, that's one of the few things that like Azure AI Search does better than all the other ones, as far as I know.
Yep. So as you can see here, Seth, I have added my index. So this will now ground my model. So now I can ask it something specific to my company. So let's say I ask, what products does Treeholics sell? And let's see what we get.
There
So
you
here
go.
you can see, Seth, like that this information is now grounded in my company data. I can see the references to which part of my documents that this answer came from. And it's telling me clearly like the types of trees and plants that this company provides. But I want to show something a little fun. What if I ask the same question, but in Spanish or another
Ooh,
language? Right, let's see what happens here. Here
there it
you
is.
can see that the model has produced a similar answer, also referencing my documentation, but now in Spanish. So this is
Ooh.
really awesome, Seth, because like imagine you have customers from around the world visiting your website, the Treeholic site, and customers speak different languages. So they could come, they can ask a question in Dutch or Spanish or English, and then get a response to help them make an informed decision. So I think that's pretty awesome.
That's really cool, and you didn't have to do anything else to make it work other than just ask it in Spanish, and it worked.
Exactly. So the playground supports multilingual support today for this model. So there's nothing that you have to actually configure, which is really awesome.
So one of the things that I noticed is that you had kind of an index pre-built. What if someone's like using this stuff and they're like, I don't have an index? Are you able to build those things inside of this studio as well?
Yeah, so you can definitely from the playground upload data, but you
Mhm.
can also go to the data tab and create your index. So I
Oh,
did this beforehand, but this is where you can see, we support different connections to Azure data sources like OneLake or Fabric. You could even like upload your own information from your local computer. So if you have documents or data on your local device, you can also upload it and create that index that you can then reference in the playground. Or you could simply just add it to the playground here as well. So either one, whichever one works for you.
all right. So you showed us a bunch of stuff in the playground, and I know I try to get ahead of myself, but now that you've done this stuff in the playground and you've tried it out, what would be the next step for someone building these kinds of applications?
Yeah. So Seth, it's easy for me to, write one question at a time. But what if I have like multiple questions that I want to evaluate? This
Right.
is where I would leverage the manual evaluation. And
Okay.
this, as you can see, it's already connected to the model that I had in the playground. If I go to data, you can also see that my index is still
Oh, yeah,
connected.
from before.
Yep, exactly. So I can ask a question here and see how the model responds, or I can upload a data set to evaluate this model. So I actually already have a test data set. So let's click on this one. And it's super easy. All I have to do is load this up and then do some quick mapping. And then once I do that, you see that I have my input, I have my expected output, and I'm going to evaluate how this model actually like works and what the output is. So I could do it for one, but then I could show you what it looks like for multiple.
That's cool. And so effectively what you're doing is you're trying to figure out, like, I want the model to respond this way, and you're giving some tests with some baseline questions and answers, and this will actually make it so that it will give you the answer and maybe even a score. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. So here you can see it gave me an answer.
Hmm.
And I can then evaluate how well this answer was or how good it was, which I've already done actually. So let me go to, and here you can see it actually updated as I was speaking, it updated here.
Yeah.
And I could rank whether this was a good or bad response. But I've already done this. So let me show you just an example of one of my manual evaluations that I did for this Treeholics Q&A. And it actually performed pretty well, where I was able to go through and see, based on the input, what the expected output was, and basically evaluate how well it performed manually.
That's cool. And so as you're doing this stuff manually, I'm seeing like a thumbs up and a thumbs down. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, exactly. So this is where the manual evaluation comes in. So as you can see, I can thumbs up or thumbs down this, and it changes the score, as you can see here. And based on how well the model performed, then you could actually go and like iterate on this assistant and this model. So whether that means changing the prompt, the meta prompt, whether that means changing or improving your data, and you can run this again and see how that model performs and evaluate the performance of this model.
That's really cool. And so you can have confidence that this thing is doing the right thing with the data that you've given it, correct?
Exactly, exactly. So this is a good way to test multiple inputs.
Amazing. So if people are looking at this, how would they use this inside of their application? Is there some code that they give you so that you can put in your application?
So really, really good question, Seth. And this is where I want to talk a little bit about prompt flow. Uh,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. And that feels like the second part. But there's some code that I've seen here. There's a button right there. Do you see that view code button?
Yep. Yep. So this is the sample code that you can then use to integrate in your application.
I see.
So this is something that if depending on how you rather work or your preferred IDE, this is where you can get your sample code to leverage and use in your application.
I see. And that you started talking about, like, I was like, what if you want to do more customization? And you're like, Seth, that's just when we start talking about something called prompt flow. And I feel like this is a good stopping point so that we can maybe do a little summary of what it is that we've talked about, and then, get people excited about the next episode. So can you give us a summary of what we've seen and how people can find out more?
Yeah, so what you saw was the Azure AI Studio, which is the place to do your Gen AI applications and copilots. Today, we looked at a company called Treeholics that wanted to essentially build a Q&A chat box for their website to help customers get answers quickly to common questions. So what we did was first find the best model for our scenario. We did that by leveraging benchmarks to help us choose the right model for our task. We then deployed that model in our project, and we then experimented with that model in the playground. We did test a few things in the playground, but we then leveraged manual evaluation to see how well that model performed. And of course, you can do additional customization in the playground and access the code if you need to.
And this is really cool because it's a really nice way to, like, get your fingers wet and really figure out if this is going to be a solution for you, not just with playing stuff in the playground, but also doing some manual evaluations to figure it out. And was that the intent all along?
Yep, definitely. You hit the nail on the
See,
head.
well, I'm learning stuff. If you want to learn more about Azure AI Studio, there's some document there's some stuff here that you can learn from, and then obviously there's some documentation that you can take a look at for Azure AI Studio. So thank you, Shanae, for being with us, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Seth.
Awesome, and thank you so much for watching. We're learning all about building your own Copilot with Azure AI Studio. Part one. Stay tuned. Part one. Stay tuned for part two, where we talk about how to go even deeper. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Take care. that man, this it's so good. All right, that was part one. Let's see. There's some questions here. This is very blurry. Apologies, Adam. Let's see what I can do to fix that on the second part. He's like, Seth, I was hoping that your face would be more blurry. The show part we want to keep. Kanita's saying the same thing. Okay, Veronica. I love all the useful information. Are there interactive workshops available for using Azure AI? Yeah, stay tuned after part 2. I'll show you some stuff. If I build my own Copilot and run into issues, is there somewhere I can go to ask questions? Yeah, absolutely. You can always come to the AI show. We'll help you. Maybe we'll do like ask questions kind of thing. So maybe we'll do that. That's a really good thing. Here's a question from Anna. This is a really good question. We experienced major issues while working with AI Studio on the private network. We are where all our resources are. Yes, absolutely. So Azure AI Studio is currently in preview mode, and we are working to resolve all the enterprise issues. So that for sure is an important one. If it's something you need to have, if you go to Azure ML Studio, I think a lot of the private network stuff has been resolved there or does work there. So Anna, let me know, because that's a great question, and feel free to reach out to me. Seth.Juarez at Microsoft.com. It's a great question. Here's another one. Should we still build Copilots with Azure AI Studio? With the Copilot Studio also a thing? Please say yes. Absolutely. So Copilot, Microsoft Copilot Studio is awesome because it's a low-code solution to building Copilot. So, for example, sometimes us developers are all like, we need to no low-code. But the reality is there's a lot of low-code solutions that are just absolutely amazing. So you should use whatever makes you happiest and gets the job done. So try both. If you need to actually get in there and like customize code and do your own thing, that feels like a Azure AI Studio. If you want to get just a couple of processes done and hook up some data, Copilot Studio might be your best bet. Here it is. Here's Matt. We took a look at the model search and comparison feature, but ended up using 3.5 Turbo base model. Did it actually score the highest in comparison when searching for Q&A oriented models? You take a look. If you go to Azure AI Studio, and I did not know this until Shanae showed me, that you can actually look at the benchmarking stuff just to choose the right, the model that works best for you. But I have found that 3.5 is pretty good at most retrieval augmented generation. I don't like the acronym RAG. It's just an unfortunate acronym. But maybe we should call it Search Augmented Generation, SAG. That works better for me, a middle-aged guy, where everything. SAG. But I think there's also a SAG for something else. What is the difference between Copilot Studio and Azure AI Studio? Roberto, I think we touched on that just a tad. Copilot Studio is a low-code solution, which you can use to quickly implement some stuff. And it probably solves a lot of situations. But where you want to actually have complete control over the entire thing, you would go with Azure AI Studio. What's the difference between Azure AI Studio and Azure OpenAI? That's a great question. So Azure OpenAI has a playground and a bunch of things. It gives you the key and the endpoint. That's been integrated into Azure AI Studio, where you can create projects, and those projects you can organize a bunch of prompt flows, a bunch of stuff together. And so it's like Azure OpenAI is inside of Azure AI Studio, but you get a little bit more. Huge Seth. Yes, speaking of SAG. Okay, keep going. Can you show what resources are necessary or created in my Azure account? Yeah, absolutely. I'll show it at the end. So DF Meta, remind me at the end to do that. Here's another question. When leveraging the APIs, does the data mapping, etc., automatically apply, or something else required? Yeah, so there is an API to do the grounded calls. Uh, it's effectively an Azure OpenAI call, but you're giving it a data source to use, and so it knows that if you give it a data source, that it's going to use. Here's another question we get this often: when should we use Azure Machine Learning Prompt Flow? Is it a good choice to build backend APIs for production grade advanced? Yes. Um, Azure Machine Learning is, think of it as like the base platform of all of our AI stuff. So everyone trains their models at Microsoft at using Azure ML. Well, almost everybody, obviously. There's some people that have more bespoke solutions. And so it's actually really good to use, and it is production grade, 100%. Azure AI Studio is built on top of Azure ML, just as a, FYI. Yeah, it's absolutely good to use. So that was a lot of amazing questions. And so I thought, why not go to part two, where she goes into a little bit more about prompt flow. So let's go to that right now. You're not going to want to miss this episode of the AI Show. We talk all about building your own Copilot with Azure AI Studio, part two of a two-parter with my friend Sinead. Make sure you tune in. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the AI Show, where we're talking all about building your own Copilot with Azure AI Studio, part two. This is part two of a two-part series with my friend Sinead. Sinead, how you doing?
Really good, Seth. How are you?
Fantastic. And for those that missed the first episode of this two-parter, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
So my name is Shanae Winner, and I'm a senior product manager on the Azure AI team. And I currently work on our UI experiences in the AI Studio.
Fantastic. And for those that don't know what the AI Studio is, can you give us just a little elevator pitch on what it is and why people should use it?
Yeah, so the Azure AI Studio is a really great place for you to do your generative AI applications and co-pilots because it's a unified platform of our AI services. So I definitely think you want to go and check it out.
Fantastic. And we started building a little bit of an application last time for Tree Hollers. Can you remind us what we built? And then I have here a little bit of what it was actually showing on the screen.
Yeah, so last time in part one, we actually found the best model for our Q&A scenario because we're building a Q&A chat box for our Treeholics website to help users find the right products and services that Treeholics provides. So we came to the Azure AI Studio, we found the best model and leveraged benchmarks to do so. Then we deployed that model, came to the playground and experimented with that model and made sure we grounded our model in our company data to give us the right answers with the right context for our
In
company.
multiple languages, too.
In multiple languages, as you could see, Seth, we asked something in English, we also changed the language, and we got a really good response. So you might want to check out that episode.
Yeah, and then the other thing was the manual evaluations where you're able to upload question and answer pairs and figure out is it doing the right thing. That was really cool too.
Yeah, exactly. So you also want to do that when you want to evaluate how well your model is performing, because really slight changes could drastically impact the performance of your model and your assistant.
So in this episode, we're going to dive a little deeper. What if you want to do a little bit more customization and you want to change things up a little? What can we do?
Yeah, so this is where we're going to talk a little bit about prompt flow. And I'm here in the playground right now, but I want to go into our prompt flow experience.
So
And
let's just pause here. Just so this previous thing that we built before, we're effectively opening this same experience, but in prompt flow to do further modifications. Is that right?
exactly, Seth. So essentially, prompt flow is like the graphical representation of the playground. So what you're going to see here is very similar to what we did. You can ask a question and you will get a similar response based on your company's like data. And prompt flow is just a great way to like streamline your LLM application like lifecycle. And even do more. So if you want to add multiple data sources, if you want to add multiple prompts to test, that is a great place for you to do that.
All right, let's take a look at what it did.
So what you're looking at here is that graphical representation that we just discussed in
Nice.
the playground. So inputs, which would be like the question that was asked, Each node here represents a piece of code. So if I select one of these, there's code that you can actually check in as a developer and use. And here is like the output that the model or the assistant will actually give. So in the chat here, you'd see that I just asked a few questions and it was still grounded in my company data, just like we saw in the playground.
Right.
And then other things that you might want to take a look at in the prompt flow UI is, access to all your files that you could download and leverage in your favorite ID. So if you want to use VS Code Web, this is an easy way for you to just click here and you get like a hosted workstation to do this exact same thing in in VS Code Web. And
Oh,
changes
interesting.
that you make here actually will show up in the UI.
Oh, really? So those things are actually tied together then.
Yep. So you can either work in this experience or you can work in the UI experience in Azure AI Studio. And that's the beauty of like working where you prefer and where you feel comfortable.
And here's the other thing that as you're scrolling through, one of the things that I realized pretty quickly is that this prompt flow is actually a set of files. It's not like some mystical thing. And so you can literally download these files and run them locally, or you can run them inside of VS Code for web or inside of your own VS Code. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, yes, exactly. So here you can see all of the files that are being used in this prompt flow. And I can easily just like download these files and, as you said, use it locally. So you can definitely do that.
Fantastic. All right. So could you explain what this prompt flow does a little bit more and maybe give us a little tour of what's going on?
Yeah, so basically, I sort of did an overview of the prompt flow, but the reason why you want to come here is if you want to scale or maybe do more. So you can add multiple data sources, for example. You can add multiple meta prompts. So here you can see this is the default prompt that I have, but you can essentially add more of these to determine how well your model performs. And the good thing about, or I should say, the interesting thing about LLMs is that, they are non-deterministic in nature. So if you give it the same question, it might get a different like response. So it's important to leverage prompt flow to try different meta prompts, try different data sources, try different things, and evaluate how that model performs. And I could show you how we can do that.
Oh, I see. So what you're saying is that the same thing we did manually before, we're going to do again here, but with a more complex structure with potentially multiple data sources.
Yes. So, for example, like up here, you could see we have an evaluation option. And when I click this built-in evaluation, I can kick off an evaluation job here flow. And you see that there's quite a few metrics that I can select to determine how well my model performs. So groundedness to tell me how well, this model responded with respect to my input. I can look at coherence to see if the model reads like a human. So I can kick off this evaluation and see how well it basically performed by, mapping the data to the inputs here. And I've actually already kicked off one of these
So
evaluation flows
before
for you
you
to take a
before
look
you go to
at.
the next one, is this data coming? Is this something that you give it, or where is this data coming from?
So for this evaluation, I actually uploaded this one.
Oh, wait,
So
this
yeah,
is the same one from the manual evaluation, isn't it?
yes,
See, man,
precise.
I'm learning stuff.
You're good, Seth. You're good. You're
Thank
making all the connections.
you. I love it. That's
So
cool.
you can use that existing data set that you already use, but now like you can change the meta prompt or you can change data sources or anything really to see how it performed. And I want to just like quickly show you what that evaluation looked like that I did previously.
Let's do it.
So here you can see I have a ton of different evaluations. Let me close this. But I want to take a look at these two specifically.
Okay.
And here you can see these, I looked at just a few metrics and I actually changed the prompt. So I had one evaluation with the default prompt and I had one with another prompt that I used. And I wanted to see the impact on specific metrics like relevance and groundedness to see how it would impact the performance of this model. And this is where you can get like a side by side comparison of like two changes that you did to your flows and the impact of those changes using the metric built-in evaluation.
Oh, that's cool because I think one of the things is changing the text in these prompts really affects what the output is. And what you're doing here is you're, as a developer that's doing generative AI, you're able to run these things a couple of times and see how is the stuff that you're changing affecting things like, I think you have groundedness and relevance in this case. And it looks like you made it worse.
I actually did make it with Seth. So that tells me I need to improve my prompt. So what I did is I first ran it with the default prompt that we have in prompt flow. And then I actually changed my prompt a bit. I gave it some specific ways to behave, and I need to tune that. And I wanted to essentially show you that, it is an iterative process. Sometimes
Yeah.
you run it and it is worse. So you have to
She's
update
all, she's all like, "You called me out, Seth. Don't worry, Shanae. I have made things worse
it.
a lot." So this is
No,
probably the
that was
one
part of my plan. It was
that was
part.
part of the plan. So once people have gone through evaluations and are satisfied that this prompt flow that they built is good, what are the next steps? What should people be thinking about, or what are you going to show us next?
So essentially, after you have a evaluation that you're satisfied with, that you like how it's performing, you can then, go to your prompt flow. I think it was this one I was using, and you can then deploy this. So after you've tweaked it a bit, you can deploy this and then leverage it in your application. So you basically go through the deployment steps. And once you do that, then you have your prompt flow deployed that you can then just call in your various applications.
And that's just making another endpoint. And I know this because I've done this before. It's making another endpoint that folks can call.
Exactly. Is
And
that
that's really cool because it's like you're making your own new GPT-3.5 Turbo, but wrapped in your own data goodness to make it more of what you want for Treeholics in this case, right?
exactly? So eventually you should see my deployment pop up here that I just deployed. But essentially, yes, using my company data, changing like the meta prompts the way I did, and basically customizing my flow, I can then deploy that endpoint and then use it in my application.
Well, this is amazing stuff. Anything else to add? Like, where can people learn more? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I would suggest to come to the Azure AI Studio at ai.azure.com and explore all of the capabilities that we have. I'll also encourage you to check out our documentation and our tutorials and get started. And it's so simple to build your first Copilot. So I encourage you to do the same.
Fantastic. Well, Shanae, this has been lovely. We've been learning all about how to build your own Copilot with Azure AI Studio. This is part 2 of 2. Thanks so much for being with us, Shanae.
Yeah, happy to be here, Seth. Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Take care. How about them apples? Wasn't that cool? All right. So let's get back to some of your questions here because I want to make sure we answer them. And then we'll get to some of the questions that I did not answer all the way. So one of them was from DF Meta, and it was what is it that we're actually laying down? So and then people ask for like, hey, where's all the code and stuff? So let me bring this up here. Boom. So this is the actual GitHub location where all of like if I'm giving a talk at the AI show at the AI tour or the workshop, this is all based on this stuff right here. So if you go to github.com, Azure samples, and then here let me make it a little bigger here. Here, let me make it a little really big. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Super big. Boop. Too big. Azure samples. Contoso chat. That's where we are. So if you go to github.com, Azure Samples, Contoso Chat, you'll get stuff there. Looks like there's some issues here that we need to look at here. Oh, geez. I need to authenticate. Yeah. See, I need to edit. So we are looking at these. So I need to go through these. This was 2 days ago. Ooh, I need to look at that. Looks like there's some pull requests too. Interesting. So we need to review this. Oh, so look at that. This does break your builds, so we'll need to fix that. So this is all here. You can go discussions too. Oh wow, look at that. We should add a discussion here. We can talk about stuff here. So this is where the code is, so you can take a look at all of that stuff. The second thing I want to show you is I want to show you what actually gets laid down inside of Azure inside of Azure. So this is the Contoso Outdoors thing, and I have extra resources, but the reality is that it lays down this machine learning workspace. Here, I'll sort these. So it lays down some machine learning workspaces. One for the hub that she talked about, which is Contoso Outdoors. Another one, Contoso Store, which is one of the projects. Then it has I think that's it. Oh, and then a key vault and container registry. These things are for this website that I built that you can't get into because I have it blocked. So if you look at this Contoso, not this one because I took this one. So this website right here is the one that I show like my chat stuff, right? So that's what that is, and you can actually download this one too. This website, it's just Contoso Web, so you can see how I can make calls to different things. So, for example, if you look at the source here under app and under the API, there's three different execution paths. The first one is the one that uses the grounded stuff, and this is what the API call looks like when you are sending it and telling it to use grounded data. You see that? So that's what that is for. And then the second one is the regular prompt flow call. And regular prompt flow calls are quite simple. You know, you're just doing an API call. So super good, super good. And then the last one is there's the visual prompt flow. And that's the one where it sends pictures, but it's like literally the same thing. It looks exactly the same. It's just calling a different prompt flow. So that's what that looks like. And then because some people are like, well, what about memory and what about all this other stuff? It turns out that I don't like the concept of memory being conflated with the actual LLM calls. I like to think of memory for these types of applications more of like session state in a web app. And so this is how, for example, you send the grounded message. And notice that the actual like chat history is maintained on the client side. So you can see when I send the messages, I really don't take into account the chat history. I should, but I don't do that just because of the way the prompt flow is built. You can see that it's all very standard stuff. Okay, so it looks like Nick is saying build a couple of these already. Great tool, fantastic, Nick. Thank you. There's still a lot of work for us to do. I just got a request for talking about the agent models and how to represent that inside of a prompt flow, for example. I'd love to figure that out and maybe get some stuff on that. And then the other thing is all of this stuff. Once you let me move it over here. Once you do a clone, oh wow, look, I have 13. I've been gone for a week. It's installing. Wow. Look at all this stuff that I missed out on. Reload required. Reload required. Come on, Pylance. Don't let me down. There we go. Now that it's reloaded, you can take a look at all of this is the same stuff. Directly from the Control Plus. Boop. Can we get a link to the repo? This is Enoch. Yeah, absolutely. The one that has all of the stuff is this. I'll do a little zoom it here. GitHub.com, Azure Samples, Contoso Chat. We'll put it in the show notes at the end, hopefully, if I can remember. But yeah, go there, and once you clone it, you're going to get this goodness that has all of the stuff in there, including the notebooks, etc. I'm not going to open this because I'll hose all my keys. But for example, Contoso Chat. Here's the flow DAG. Oh, looks like I have some changes I need to pull in. Git pull. Oh, origin main. Oh, look at that. Here's the visual. Here's the prompt flow here. Let me control minus so things can fit a little bit better. But this is the prompt flow here running locally. You can see all of the inputs, all of the stuff, how long each of these things take. If I go over here, notice that when I click on stuff, you can see how long all of this stuff takes. It's pretty good. Here's a question. Waiting for semantic kernel versus Azure AI Studio turf war. No, there is no such thing. Like, I work with these folks all the time. Matthew Bolanos is an absolute delightful human being, and he works on that stuff. And PropFlow and semantic kernel work just perfectly well together. And here's the reason why. And this is a good point. So I want to let me bring up my handy dandy board here so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see what I'm talking. I'll full screen this. Okay, so I think. Oh, I need to switch. Here we go. So the way I like to think about these things is like this. So let me do this. So think of like orchestrator complexity. Oh man, I'm running out of time. I got to put my walk-off music soon. Orchestrators. Man, I'm so bad at this. So think of this as orchestration complexity. Right? At the most bottomest layer, you have like a literal API call. This is the lowest level of orchestration. Oh, I'm like, let me move this. There you go. At the bottom layer of this, let me put my face back. This is the lowest level of orchestrator complexity. Lowest level, right? Prompt flow lives right about here. Oh, I'm on the eraser side. This is prompt flow. This is a low level declarative orchestrator. What does that mean? It means that you have to give it a prompt. Declarative because there is a dag.yaml. You saw that file that tells it what the graph is. And it's an orchestrator, but it doesn't do LLM calls on anybody's behalf, right? You have to pass it through. So then you get higher up the stack. You have something like maybe type chat. If you know what this is, it's a really cool library built by Anders Halsberg that you do an LLM call, but internally it orchestrates in a way that it forces the return to conform to an API, to a schema, JSON schema. But it's a very specific. Oh, I need to get the walk-up music here so I don't forget. It's very specific. Then you have things like LangChain and semantic kernel. These have orchestrators built in, as well as memory and other things, which is fine. I mean, I personally think you should separate memory from the orchestration side, just to not, SRP, single responsibility principle, as a developer. These use LLMs to decide what to do on your behalf, and then at the top of the heap, you have something like AutoGen. There's other ones. Like I just heard there was a LangGraph or something that I need to look into. But AutoGen uses agent style programming to get the thing to solve problems. These are all very amazing patterns. They're all great. However, my particular nit with tools is that you should not give these things agency without observability. And what I mean by that is, like, if what's happening is hidden in an SDK, that's not good. So people like semantic kernel LangChain, they do have observability, and they do have. And so the good thing about that is you may want to, for example, embed a LangChain zero-shot agent, and you can totally do that in PromptFlow because it's a low-level declarative orchestrator. So you can put a bunch of code into a single PromptFlow node that does very complex LangChain stuff, or semantic kernel stuff, or both at the same time. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And so as more patterns emerge, PromptFlow is at the lowest level. And we may even introduce something at a lower level to help with observability. Because like I said, I don't like giving these things agency, which is the power to have real world side effects without observability, right? Because you want to be able to trace this stuff and know what's going on. And so that's so to answer your question, Adam, there is no turf war. All of this stuff is great. And I work with LangChain people directly. I work with semantic kernel people directly. So that we could all like make this a better place for people that do development. So hopefully that answers that question. But it's a great comment, Adam, because it looks like it might, like I have meeting with semantic kernel people and LangChain people. They're great. They're solving awesome problems. We're trying to get like a foundational layer in there to help all these things be observable. That's my particular push on this stuff. But that's a great question. Okay, we are nearly out of time. So I thought, why not tell you what's happening on the next show? On the next show, we have on February 26th, I think next week is we're off for break. We have generative AI and accessibility with Elsa Lean. She's amazing. And so I'm really excited. One of the cool things about this new era of AI is it makes accessibility even more accessible for people. And so we should really be thinking about how to be more inclusive, and AI can totally help us with that. And so I'm excited about that. All right. So this has been another episode of the AI Show. I'm so glad you get to spend the time with us. By the way, make sure you like and subscribe on the YouTube channel if you want to get stuff. I may from time to time put out some things like explainers on how to do certain things. And so make sure you tune in for that. But as always, it's a privilege and a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for watching. And hopefully we'll see you next time on the AI Show Live. Take care.